One of the more common questions we get all the time is, when do I make the decision to start running paid advertising? Maybe you've built a business off the back of an organic presence. Maybe you're just getting started. You've done all cold outreach and now you're ready to bring some inbound leads into the organization. Or again, let's say you're raising capital and you work exclusively off referrals in a network and you're looking to create inbound leads through paid advertising. This video is going to break down exactly what you need in place to start running paid ads, why it's so important to have these things in place, and then what steps you need to take to start running ads today so you can start generating revenue and profit from paid advertising. So the number one thing that you need in place to start running paid ads ideally is revenue. If you have not generated revenue from your business, from your product, from your service, running ads is going to be stressful, simply put, because at its core, all paid advertising is a form of calculated gambling, meaning I'm walking into the casino, I'm walking up to Facebook, I'm walking up to Google, and I'm saying, hey, here's some money. My goal is to get money on the other side. Can Facebook promise you this? No. Reason being, if I don't know anything about running ads or copy or website building or digital marketing as a whole, and I go to run paid advertising, there is no reason that they should give me money. Absolutely none, because I don't have the skill set needed to make the money. Whereas if I go into the casino and I know how to do marketing, my likelihood goes up. The thing is, even if I know what I'm doing, all paid advertising is at the end of the day, and I've said this in tons of other videos, is I'm paying for data to get a return on my ad spend. So when I'm running paid ads, I'm not thinking I need to make money day one. I'm thinking I need to put $1 in to then see what the problems are in my current setup to then get a return out the other end at some point here in the near future, not from day one. Depending on the organization, the likelihood of that happening goes up drastically. But in general, go in with the mindset of I'm paying for data. And so that's why having revenue driven through the business already is so important, because it shows proof of concept. It shows, one, I can already make money, so I don't have to take it out of my personal bank account, so I can run it from the business. Two, product or service already has a demand that I'm selling something people want. I'm not just throwing money at something that's completely stupid. And then three, it allows you to be a lot more strategic in your decision-making process. You don't want to be making decisions based off emotion because you're using all the money that you have to run paid ads. Have a gambling budget. Know that if you walk into the casino with $1,000 to spend on ads, you're going to burn it. Or in a lot of our clients' cases, you walk in with $15K minimum, you are willing to blow it. This is like the number one thing you need to have. Because what this then leads us to, and this goes on top of this data perspective, is once I've started generating revenue, I said, okay, I'm at a point where I'm ready to start running paid ads. The second thing I then need to do is the math. Now, what does the math actually look like? The math, very simply put, is in an ideal scenario, what metrics do I need to hit to turn a profit on my paid ads? So what I would do is I would list out something like, I'd say ad spend, then I'd say CPM, I'd say click-through rate, I'd say page views, then I'd go to book rate, show rate, close rate, election rate, and I'm going to list out all of these metrics so that then what I can do is I can model them out and I can say worst case, expected case, best case. And what I'm now doing is I'm saying, okay, if I want to get and we'll put ROAS here at the bottom. If I'm looking for a 1x return on my ad spend, meaning I break even, what metrics do I need here, etc.? If I'm looking for 3x, what do I need here? And if I'm looking for a 5x, what do I need here, and all these different metrics? What doing the math allows me to do is then begin to make decisions. So ideally, if we go back to revenue, if you've driven revenue, you have metrics from here to here, whether it's organic, referrals, whatever, out of 20 referral appointments I book, I close 3. Out of every client I talk to or prospect I talk to, I close 2. Or my upsell rate on XYZ product or service is 20%. So for example, if I have a damn near 100% close, let's say I'm in like the cheaper local service-based side, what's my upsell rate? How many people are going to go from just a full detail to a ceramic coating? Or if I'm in the capital raising side, what's the amount of people that are going to go from getting involved in the first round to the second round? Or if I'm in the info side, what are the amount of people that go from low ticket to high ticket? I'm going to want to model all of that out. And ideally, like I said, if you have driven revenue, you already have these numbers to some extent. Once I have those, what I'm then going to do is I'm going to map them best I can to paid. With paid ads, expect a dip in performance across the board because again, if you're going from warm to cold or people or referrals or direct outbound to random people clicking ads, obviously your metrics will drop. So conservatively list out all the numbers that you have relative to your business currently. And then what you're going to do is you're going to project, okay, what do I need to make the return on ad spend that I want? Let's say in this case, it's 3x. By doing the math, what this allows me to do is predictably make changes inside of the business. Let's just take a scenario over here. Let's say CPM, bad, expected, best. Let's say my CPMs come in at $150. Worst case, my CPMs are $200. Expected, my CPMs are $100. Best case, my CPMs are $50. Again, varies by every type of business, but let's say that's the case. And if you're curious to learn more about what this actually would be for your industry, you can book a call below. We either have data on it or we don't, but we can walk you through this decision-making process in more depth. But again, we're going to look at CPMs relative to all the different models. If every other metric in the funnel is perfect and CPM is the only thing that I need to improve, so I need to get it from 150 to 100, then that's where I'm going to spend all my time to match this expected KPI. If let's say my CPMs are 150, and then let's say my show rate, bad is 40%, good is, or expected is 70, and then best is 90. Let's say my show rate is at 20%. That's fucking atrocious. So even if I have $150 CPM, the chances that my show rate will create a significant increase in revenue is much higher. So this is where I need to put my attention. And the whole purpose of this is to explain the concept of what metrics to focus on and when, and why the math is so important. Because what it allows me to do is understand what decisions need to be made next. If I'm running ads into the abyss and I've never done the math on anything, pardon my French, I might as well get fucked and just burn my money because I don't even know what to change. And so that's why the math is so important. Once I know that I've driven revenue and I've done the math, I understand what the funnel would look like ideally. And like I said, if you're curious to learn what that looks like, there's a link below. You can book, speak to myself, or member of the team. But once I've done that, the third thing I'm going to want to do is then go look back at the data and figure out who my ICP is, who my ideal consumer profile is. With tools like AI, it makes it super easy. Check out platforms like Manus, Utari, shout out Jeremy Haynes, Claude, fuck ChatGPT, but feel free to check all those platforms out. Give it your data, give it your customer stack, break down, if you have your call recordings, break down what those people are like. And you want to figure out exactly who your ICP is, your ideal consumer profile. This is who is most likely to buy your thing. So if I sell business coaching to moms over the age of 60, how do they talk? What words do they use? What do they actually care about? There's another video on my channel we recently put out about marketing angles. I encourage you to check that out when it comes to understanding how to figure out your ICP and what words to use. But that's going to be a big thing. And then again, all of this is going to come from your data. And here's where this gets really, really interesting is I'm not going to just be looking for who pays me the most, but I'm going to be looking for in what way. You may have a certain subset of consumers that give you a ton of cash up front, but have a very low lifetime value, meaning they pay you once and they never really pay again. Whereas you may have other people who pay you a lot less, but have a very large lifetime value. Interesting stat is the average person spends with Starbucks is $14,000. Because they know this, they are willing to spend thousands of dollars on Super Bowl commercials, on TV ads, on any type of advertisement, because they know that their average consumer is going to bring them $14,000 over the lifetime of them buying from them. And so that's why understanding this is good or is important, because if you look at two things, your lifetime value and your cash collected, you can then determine, do I want to bias for the consumer like it has the highest LTV or the highest cash collected? Typically what we recommend if you're just getting started is to focus on cash collected. And then as you begin to scale spend, moving into LTV, but every business is different. And so that's why this exercise is so important. So that's going to be the third thing. Once I've done that, the final step that you want to make sure you have in place for paid advertising is a strong digital presence. And this doesn't need to be perfect, but when somebody searches up you or your business, you need to show up, you need to be in line with the ad you just served them, and most of all, pardon my French, you need to not look like shit. So many businesses look like ass, and I just spent all of last week fixing this for our own organization, because although we get client results, you go to short form, it's off-brand, doesn't make sense, not in line. You go to YouTube, it's off-brand, doesn't make sense, not in line. You go to the website, it's off-brand, not in line. And it's not just the messaging, because the words were pretty solid across all accounts. It's the branding, it's the colors, it's the, oh, this is this person's brand. You need to make sure that that's in line. And it doesn't need to be perfect. You don't need to go out tomorrow and start an Instagram account, start a TikTok account, start a YouTube account, start all of these things. All you need to do is make sure that if somebody searches your name, A, bad shit doesn't come up, but B, it's very apparent what you do and how you can help. Because if we look at the customer journey in general, as much as we all like it to go ad to dollars, that's not how it works. Typically, any consumer will go ad to website, and then they'll say, don't necessarily, let's say this is the dollars. Hey, I don't necessarily want to buy. I'm going to go to Google, and then I'm going to go to Reddit, and then I'm going to go to YouTube, and then, oh, you fucking thought they give you money. I'm going to go to Instagram, and then, haha, got your ass again. I'm going to go to fucking Quora, I don't know, and then they'll go back to the money, or they'll go back to the ad, and then this cycle repeats, and it repeats, and it repeats, and it repeats until they hand you dollars. That is why having these different assets in place is so important, because it proves that you know what you're doing. And here's the key to all of this. And this happens from a conversation I had with two of my best friends from high school who are getting into the detailing space, taking over an old account of mine. I went to audit what they currently had in place on Instagram. And they had a little booking link in their website. When I clicked it, it took me to what's called a 404 error. Now, a 404 error, all this means is the website doesn't exist. This link goes nowhere. And so what I did is I took a screenshot and I said, hey guys, website's not working. Might want to get that fixed. And my response was, yeah, but go look at the post. So I was like, what the hell does he mean by look at the post? So I went and I looked at the post and it said, oh, website's going to be up soon. But here's what frustrated me a little bit is I looked at the post and I was still like, bro, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Until I clicked the caption, clicked read more on the caption and saw it at the bottom line, basically in the fine print. The principle that this goes to explain is you have to assume that most people are not going to consume your shit like this. Just because you pay a certain level of attention does not mean that they're going to focus to the same degree that you will. Ironically enough, the more money someone makes, the less likely they are to read through all the fine print until they're ready to make a buying decision. And so with all of this content, you have to assume that that's how people are behaving. So you need to keep the message simple. I recently was watching some video from a dude who runs like an online fitness coaching business. And he explained this very, very simple is the amount of people in the fitness industry that understand macros and calories and certain cues when lifting weights in a certain way is so minuscule compared to the general population that your message does not need to be about this is how I tuck my elbows, this is how I press this way, this is how I stay in a calorie deficit while maintaining certain macros. Like that's not how it works. You just need to say in every single fucking video, calorie deficit, calorie deficit, calorie deficit, calorie deficit. That's it. Same thing goes for whatever business you're running, is keep the core message simple. Allow for complexity to show up as people get deeper into the organization. The closer you get to the sale, the more complex the sales argument should be. That's why these YouTube videos are a lot more in depth. Because one, it speaks to a person that's more sophisticated. So it's my ICP. We'll get to that. That's in a whole nother video you can check out on my channel. But two, what this does, it allows me to distribute it as people get deeper into the sales process. And so at its core, at the top of funnel, which again, we'll explain in other videos, but at its core, your business needs to maintain a simple messaging across the board. That's the last thing you need to have in place. And the reason that all three of these are so important is because, like I said, paid ads is like going to the casino. You're not going to walk into a casino and say, I'm guaranteed to make money right away. You're going to go in and say, I got $5,000 that I'm willing to just blow. And if I lose it, I lose it. If I win big, I win big. Awesome. But at the end of the day, I'm fine losing all this shit. That's why it's so important. You want to make sure that all of your X's and O's are covered, or however you want to say that. And that's the big two, is what do I need in place and why is it important to have these things in place? Now, once I've gone through all this, I've done the math, I've generated revenue through the business, I've looked at my ICP, I understand what's going on. In order to get started with paid advertising, the next thing I'm going to want to do to make sure that this all works out effectively is map out my customer's journey. And this is the first step that we recommend to anybody that's running paid ads, is you want to map out what does this actually look like. And this is very, very simple. With any funnel, typically the way that this works is it goes ad to some sort of website. Again, if you're sophisticated, we call these funnels, lead forms, call funnels, webinars, VSLs, whatever it is, but keeping it simple. We go ad to a website to sales call or money. What I need to do is I need to map out needs for all three of these. What does your consumer need to see before they make a buying decision? Not only that, but what are the questions that they will have before making a buying decision? And all I'm doing in this customer journey is I'm mapping out, again, based on my ICP, which I figured out in the other one. And if you want to know more, there's that Marketing Angles video you can check out. But what are the needs and what questions do people have at each stage? Let's say I'm selling a high ticket service, marketing agency services, for example. An ad may speak to the needs of somebody. Are you looking for another revenue channel that's more consistent and that doesn't require you to build a big ass outbound sales team? That's a need. Now they have a question. Well, yeah, of course I am. What's next? Then I give them a website that explains what paid advertising is like. Another need someone may have. Are you currently running Google ads and you feel like you've tapped out that channel? Maybe you're doing a couple $100,000 a month. You're looking for that next vehicle, but you don't want to go gambling on a channel you're not familiar with. I've addressed that next need. And so that's what I'm doing at each step. Let's take the Google versus Facebook. Then they go to the next one. Well, yeah, of course. I want a little bit more about how does this work? Then I would have on the website, it would say something like high ticket service-based businesses looking to run paid ads at scale. Watch the video below to learn a little bit more about whatever. And in the video, all I would do is I would address all the questions that someone may have and then get them to book the call. And then when they book the call, between the time the call happens and the actual call itself, I'd feed them context, answering any questions, handling any needs or concerns that they have. And that's all I'm doing is I'm just mapping this out. So let's go back to the detailing business in terms of an ad. Let's say I'm speaking to moms with messy cars. Are you tired of your kids just absolutely trashing your car and you just don't have the time in life to go in and clean it all up? You get in your car, you see the Cheerios everywhere, you see the Fruit Loops, and it's messing with your headspace. You want the clean car, you have a nice car, you live in a nice neighborhood, yet for some reason, every time you step in that vehicle, it feels like shit. You want to be able to show it off to your friends. You want to let your friends know that you're in a good place because your environment is a direct reflection of your headspace. And if you have a clean environment around you, it shows other people that you're clean, that you're on top of it, that you've got this thing. And so what we're actually doing in this neighborhood specifically is a special for moms just like you who are looking to get their cars clean. Just look at Susie. We did Susie's car last week. That may be an angle I use. And then what happens after that is they'll go to the website and they'll say, cool, I want to book a call. And then on the website, I may have a list of the services. So, because again, now they're like, yeah, I want to learn. But now the next question they'd have or the next need is, okay, what do I actually need? Family special with this upsell. Then I'd go there. And then as soon as they booked, be like, send them a text. Because then the next question is like, cool, who's coming to my house? How do I know? Do they need anything from me? Now, so congratulations on just booking in your detailing appointment. What we're going to need from you is this. All of our best clients do this, and this. Can you please just text us back and confirm? You'll also be receiving a call from a member of my team, just confirming everything so that we know that blah, blah, blah is going to the right place. And again, what I've done is if I map this out, I can pre-handle all of these things. And so that's the first part when you go to run paid ads. The second thing is you just got to build it all out. So film the ads, get creative, film the funnel, like create the funnel funnel, all of the stuff that goes together, and then go through it yourself. Because once you've created it, you want to test it. And this is something I am so bad at objectively and have built into all of my SOPs because of how bad I am at doing it inherently. It's something I need to just add into the process, into the checklist that I follow. Test everything. Test the tech, test the calls. If you have a sales team, make sure your sales team is calling people. You want to test every single component inside of the funnel to make sure that at the end of it, people are converting. Once I've done that, I've tested it, it works, then we're going to go live. We're going to upload it into Facebook, Google, whatever the ad platform is. And we're going to start paying for data. The key thing here, and I actually made a short on this the other week, or today actually, I think. The key to this, you are paying for data. Do you think that Coca-Cola is going to make a decision based on $1,000 in ad spend? No. So don't go making brash decisions because you spend $30 in a day and it doesn't work. Realistically, all of our clients are required to spend $15K minimum in month one for damn near every single offer. If you're trying to achieve scale, if you're one of the smaller ones, you're not looking for a big business, but you want to get running ads, you're learning a little bit. That's more on the consulting side. You can book a call below, speak to myself, remember the team, learn a little bit more about what that looks like. But anybody that we work hand in hand with has to have that 15K budget or we can't make decisions. There's not enough data there, or we have to wait too long to make decisions. And so you either pay with your time or your money. But the key thing you don't want to do is make those decisions before you've spent or waited enough time. And so that's the big thing here is because you're buying data, make sure you pay for enough data to make a decision. Typically, our rule of thumb, you want to be looking for at minimum 10 conversions. Ideally, you're sitting in that like 25 to 50 range. That's even best practice for Facebook. But ideally that 25 to 50 range. So you can confidently say, cool, we've got a good spread of data. We can start making decisions. And then again, it follows what we call the law of large numbers, where the more data you have, easier it is to make decisions because there are more true patterns. You know, if you just hit a weird week, you get fucked on. There are some accounts where I run the same thing week over week and it goes from $50 a lead to $30 a lead to $50 a lead. And when the client asks me why the cost drop or why the cost raise, I say, look, I haven't changed anything and it's worked. We're at a 10x right now. I'm not going to change anything. So it's removing yourself from the emotional side. That's going to be the last part, guys. And again, if you want to learn more about what this looks like in practice, there's going to be a link where you can book a call. All that we're doing to sum this up is make sure you're driving revenue, make sure you have some proof of concept, then do the math on what the numbers need to look like before you run paid ads. Figure out who you want to sell to, not just who buys the most, but who brings in the most cash and who brings in the most lifetime revenue. Map those out, figure out who you're selling to there, and then just map out the customer journey. Test it out, figure all those things out. The last thing I'll say with this in terms of how do I start is you need to make sure that your sales team is working leads that they have experience working. So if I go from organic content where I'm running a webinar to paid ads and I'm running lead forms, I'm gonna get fucked because my sales team is not used to closing leads that need a ton of nurturing. They might not even remember filling out the form in the first place. You just wanna make sure that your sales team is accustomed to whatever you're running so that you get conversions a lot faster and then you can scale into strategies that need more sophisticated and more dialed in sales teams, both on the setting side and the closing side. So that covers just about everything in terms of the basics behind running ads. If you guys have any questions about that, like I said, there's gonna be a link below. You can book call myself, member of the team, to speak with us about either consulting or doing it for you. Also like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.